because rule-based systems about how to play a game aren't optimal.
No.
That's why.
What happened is the AI took the rules of how to play the game and what the winning goal is, and it experimented and found the best ways to achieve that goal.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm genuinely excited about this one, so grab a seat and settle in. Today we're stepping into a heavyweight clash between Matt, who's defending a fully secular approach to morality, and Jordan, who keeps pushing back from the religious angle. The whole thing centers on one massive question. Can humans build a moral system that actually corrects its own mistakes? Or do we need something handed down from above to keep us in line? What makes it so good is that Jordan brings up an AI argument thinking he's got the upper hand, and the way it gets turned around is something you have to see for yourself. Trust me, stick around through the entire breakdown, because the best part lands when you least expect it, and I don't want you to miss how the whole thing snaps into place. Before we get rolling, drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're tuning in from. I always love seeing how far this channel reaches. Alright, enough from me, let's get straight into it.
Oh, you have a rationale for them.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
You already have. Life is generally preferable to death because we're talking about our life, and death is generally not in the interest of the living. It can be an exception. This is the point that I was getting to. So you could start with those foundations. You could start with any three that you found. You could pick three arbitrary foundations. And the one aspect that makes a secular moral system distinct from religious pronouncements and divine command theory and those sorts of things is that the secular moral system has as its goal the object of getting better at getting better, which means if you find out that one of your foundations is wrong or in conflict with something else, you can now change that. You could start with death is preferable to life, and then when you find out that it's not working that well, you change that foundation. I think that these foundations, based on the evidence of how people tend to live their lives and what they care about, are a good set of three. There could be better ones that somebody come up with. I'm open to revision on any of these at any time. But to say that I'm not skeptical about them is exactly the opposite of what I am. Because skepticism is about, I'm not going to accept something as true without good reason, and it's about being open to revision should there be evidence. If you and I agree that we care about a good life isn't very well defined. And we may have different ideas about what good life is. But if we could actually just sit here and take notes, I think that we'd come across maybe a handful of things that we would agree would make for a good life. If we take those and compare them to the foundations of a secular moral system like what I'm describing, we can determine non-subjectively whether or not the list we've come up with are consistently approachable from that foundation. And we can do that for religious morality as well. The analogy that I've used in the past is, for example, a game of chess. There's nothing about the universe that requires that we care about chess or care about the rules of chess. The rules of chess are arbitrary. Somebody made them up. We changed them. We added en passant. We added castling. We did things like that. We have the rules of chess. We don't always know what the best move is. But if the goal of the game is to win, or at a minimum, not lose, then we can analyze the moves with respect to the consequences and with respect to the goal of winning and determine which moves are better and which moves are worse. That is what a secular moral system does because it allows revision, whereas religious systems don't allow for revision. There's not a Bible 3.0. There's not a Quran 2.0. There's no new revelation from God to say, hey, I said all this stuff about slavery, now I'm opposed to it. Or, hey, I was really down on homosexuals, but now I'm okay with it. Hey, when I said that here's what caused diseases, or that you were unclean and shouldn't enter the temple, all those things are actually wrong. The germ theory of disease is right. And none of that's come out.
You have to understand why this whole moment matters, because Matt is doing something here that most people completely miss. He's not claiming to have all the answers handed down on a stone tablet. He's saying the opposite, and that's the part that blows my mind every time I watch it. Matt lays it out plainly. He says what makes a secular moral system distinct from religious pronouncements and divine command theory is that the secular system has as its goal the object of getting better at getting better. Sit with that for a second. The entire point is improvement. It is a system designed to correct itself. And here's what people don't realize. Jordan tries to corner Matt by suggesting he's just smuggling in foundations he won't question. But Matt flips that instantly. He says he is open to revision on any of these at any time, and that to claim he is not skeptical is exactly the opposite of who he is. That is the strongest position you can hold. Real skepticism isn't arrogance. It's refusing to accept something as true without good reason and staying open to changing your mind when better evidence shows up. This is the part I love. Matt draws the line in the clearest way possible. He says that is what a secular moral system does because it allows revision, whereas religious systems don't allow for revision. There's no Bible 3.0, there's no Quran 2.0, and that single sentence exposes the whole problem. Because think about it honestly. Matt points out there's no new revelation from God to say, hey, I said all that stuff about slavery, now I'm opposed to it. That's not a cheap shot, that's a devastating observation. A frozen book cannot update itself, no matter how much the world learns. And a moral framework that can never admit it was wrong isn't a strength, it's a trap.
Well, there is kind of a Bible 2.0. That was the New Testament, right?
Well,
So that's not exactly right.
that is the update for the Christians,
Yeah.
except that it's worse than the first one.
Well, that's not exactly the point. The point is there was an update. So,
Well,
okay, so
in the update, it's not like Jesus came along and said, hey, in Exodus 21, where I was saying you could have slaves and beat them, we got that wrong, or you got that wrong. That correction's never given. That thing about, in Leviticus where we point out that women are worth 2/3 of that of a man, we got that wrong. None of that is corrected. In fact, the reason I say it got worse, although I didn't know we were going to go down the biblical route tonight, is that if you look at Jewish tradition, when you're dead, you sleep with your fathers. There's no real clear notion of an afterlife. And then with the introduction of the New Testament, what you get is infinite torture and punishment for finite crimes, which is immoral.
all right, so I don't want to go down that rabbit
Sure.
hole at the moment, although I'd be perfectly happy to do it,
Next time.
if we get there. Well,
Because they want us to go to questions here in a minute.
Oh, okay. So I want to address the rule system that you're putting together.
Okay?
Okay, so I was talking to a friend of mine who's an AI engineer. He's a very smart guy, and we've been talking about the foundations of cognition.
Mhm.
And you know that artificial intelligence systems don't run on rules. Right.
Well, some of them do.
Well,
And certainly they run on an operating system that is full of rules.
that's actually
That's the-
not relevant in this case
But that's the physical
because they could
foundation.
operate on all sorts of different operating systems.
Well,
But okay, so
but
just hang on a
there's a
second.
foundation. The foundation I'm pointing to is the physical facts of the universe, and that would be roughly consistent with the hardware and the operating system that they're running on. But I'm sorry, I
Okay, well,
interrupted.
no. I
Continue.
mean, that's a reasonable objection too. But look, one of the things that happened and I think this is one of the problems with the we can generate a rational system of rules that can govern our behavior approach, is that since the 1980s, people have been trying to build rule-based expert systems that can do relatively simple things. Relatively simple. They're not that simple. Like basic medical diagnosis. They don't work. Rule-based systems don't work. You can't get them to operate intelligently, which is why machine learning came about to begin with. Because whatever machine learning is doing and allowing for predictions, it doesn't seem easily decomposable to a set of listable rules and a map of their interactions. The world doesn't seem to work that way.
This is the exact moment Jordan reaches for a lifeline, and watch how fast it gets taken apart. Jordan says, well, there is kind of a Bible 2.0, that was the New Testament. And on the surface, that sounds clever. An update, right? Problem solved. Except it's not solved at all, and Matt closes that door immediately. He points out that it's not like Jesus came along and said, hey, in Exodus 21 where I was saying you could have slaves and beat them, we got that wrong. That is the knockout. An update that never actually retracts the worst parts isn't an update. It's a sequel that leaves the broken machinery exactly where it was. You can't call it a correction if nothing was corrected. And here's why this matters so much. For centuries, people pointed to Scripture to justify owning other human beings. It took human moral reasoning, debate, and revision to overturn that. The book didn't change its mind. People did. That's the whole argument in one historical fact. Then Jordan pivots to what he thinks is his strongest play. He brings up a friend who's an AI engineer and says artificial intelligence systems don't run on rules. He's trying to use technology to argue that you can't build morality on a rational foundation. And this is where it backfires beautifully. Matt takes that exact example and turns it around. He explains that rule-based systems don't work. You can't get them to operate intelligently. And that is precisely why machine learning came about in the first place. Let me break down why that's so brilliant. Jordan brought up AI to attack Matt's view, but the actual history of AI proves Matt's point. The field abandoned rigid top-down rule lists because they failed, and built systems that learn and adapt instead. Jordan handed Matt the perfect metaphor and didn't even see it coming.
And I would say, back to the metaphysical substrate argument, you laid forward a set of propositions, and the reason I was perhaps inappropriately torturing you about them is because there's a metaphysic under them. There's something that's driving you to put those forward as reasonable. You say, well, they're self-evidently reasonable. See, my question is...
I didn't actually say it, but okay.
Well, it's something like that, because you said, well, reasonable people could agree on these three or something similar. It seems to me that what you're saying is that there's a set of finite axioms that reasonable people could conceivably agree on, from which you could generate a rule-based moral system. Have I got that wrong? I thought that's what you said.
It's curious because I didn't say that, but it's very close to something that I have said in the past, which is for any given situation, there's a finite set of actions that a person could take. And some set of those actions are better than others with respect to whatever the goal is. If the goal is to continue a decent life or improve the quality of your life, some set of one or more actions that you could take in this instant produces results that are better in ways that we would agree they're better. Like throwing Sam off the stage. If we were in that situation,
there must be an unconscious fantasy going on here or something, eh? Because we keep returning to that.
And it's fun. But one of the possible actions of this set of actions would be for me to throw him off the stage. Another possible set of action would be for me to, shield him. It is clear, and you can say that I'm just saying it's self-evident, it is clear that one of those is going to be more in Sam's best interest and perhaps even more in mine than another. That's all we're saying. We're not pretending remotely that we have the answer to every possible scenario, just that we have the foundational tool set that allows us to come up with the right answers. And we do this in opposition.
Yeah, but you also think that you can do that with a set of rules.
So first
See,
of all...
I actually don't think that's technically tenable. I don't think there's any evidence for that.
I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Well, you can't build expert systems, for example.
Well, you can't say that you can't because...
Well, we've tried for about 40 years with no success.
Gee, 40 years out of 13.7 billion, and we haven't cracked it yet, so it's impossible?
No. But 40 years of exponentially increasing computational power with no
Partially.
solution on the horizon except for AI.
So, and the latest AI thing, which I absolutely love because I'm a chess player, is the DeepMind AlphaZero thing that learned the entirety of what humans know about playing chess in 4 hours or so and then beat the best previous chess computer. And people are saying, oh, it's the beginning of Skynet because now we have this sort of thinking. However, that method produced better results of letting it play itself with chess, giving it no opening book, giving it no history of chess, nothing.
Well, that's my point.
It didn't give it no rules. It gave it the rules of chess and the goal of the game.
Yes, but it didn't give it rules about how to play the game.
Correct.
Right, and that's because rule-based systems about how to play a game aren't optimal.
No.
That's why.
What happened is the AI took the rules of how to play the game and what the winning goal is, and it experimented and found the best ways to achieve that goal. And I think that's what human beings have done throughout the entirety of history. We're beings in a physical universe. We have the rules. The goal is to survive, and I would say the goal should be to thrive. Mm-hmm. And we are continually finding the best rules and the best methods. This exactly mirrors the moral system I'm talking about. The idea that there is someone on high telling the computer, don't play h4 as your first move, we threw that out because that's not the best way to find out things. Instead, we plopped the computer down just as we were plopped down in a universe when we gained consciousness and began interacting. And the computer, in the span of a few hours, discovered everything that humanity has discovered about chess. And now they are applying it to the sort of diagnostic things you were talking about. I think that is directly analogous to what the best explanations of what human beings have done.
Oh, this is the part where the whole thing comes full circle, and it's glorious. Because Jordan, without realizing it, walks Matt straight into the strongest version of his own argument. Matt brings up the DeepMind AlphaZero system that learned the entirety of what humans know about playing chess in about 4 hours and then beat the best previous chess computer. And Jordan jumps in thinking he scored a point. Jordan says, that's my point. It didn't give it no rules, it gave it the rules of chess and the goal of the game. He thinks he just proved you need a fixed framework handed down from above. But watch what Matt does with that. He agrees on the rules and the goal, then makes the distinction that destroys Jordan's whole position. Matt says the AI took the rules of how to play the game and the winning goal. and it experimented and found the best ways to achieve that goal. You see the difference? Nobody told the machine which moves were holy. It discovered them. That is secular morality. A goal, a reality to work within, and the freedom to figure out what actually works. And then Matt delivers the line that ties it all together. He says the idea that there is someone on high telling the computer don't play H4 as your first move, we threw that out, because that's not the best way to find out things. That right there is the entire debate in one sentence. The top-down commander didn't make the system smarter, removing it did. Here's what I want you to really take in. Matt's whole point is that human beings are the AI in this story. We were dropped into a universe with conditions we didn't choose, with the goal of surviving and, as Matt says, thriving. And we've spent our entire history experimenting, failing, revising, and getting better. We didn't need a frozen instruction manual. We needed the willingness to learn. And the thing Jordan offered as his trump card ended up being the cleanest illustration of exactly why the secular approach wins. That's not me being harsh. That's just where the logic lands. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.